Being a people pleaser is more than just a personality trait. It can be considered a disease due to its detrimental impact on one's mental, emotional, and physical health. My name is Rusenica. Welcome to my casual YouTube channel. This is where I talk anything casual or monumental related to themes of life in general, and today it just happens to be people pleasing. As time goes on, I feel as though as a society, we all recognize the value of prioritizing your mental health, self-care, self-actualization. I feel like we can all I feel like most of us can agree that people pleasing is a disease. People pleasing is a disease that I carried throughout majority of my life and am slowly finding cures to through my lack of seeking to be digestible, my journey of self-actualization, and my freedom to just curate my own environment that makes me not want to seek out people who I need to please. People pleasing affects each individual differently, obviously. People pleasing is not a general, universally diagnosed disease. Personally, I feel the reason that I people please, and I'm not going to make this whole entire video about me, I want to make it more general so that a lot of people can relate to it. So I won't only be speaking on my experience with people pleasing, but I just want to give a little bit of context as to how I can relate to this. I feel as though I started people pleasing because of my environment growing up. I moved around a lot, and when you move around a lot, you find for your survival, you make friends with people and you try to get them to like you. And by trying to get them to like you, you will do anything really to be liked. So that is my background really with people pleasing. And so even though I'm an adult, I'm a fully formed adult and I can't live in the past, I find that I am slowly working through what I have spent years training myself to do. And then also, my dad was a pastor, my parents are missionaries. I think that most Christians can agree that your life is viewed as a life of service. So as a Christian and just as somebody who is a pastor's kid, and we all know how pastors' kids, primarily pastors' daughters, have a reputation for like rebelling, or we all know that stereotype, and I do feel as though it comes from a place of, well, we people pleased for so long that we go through periods and phases of just wanting to be so selfish that sometimes it sends us off the deep end and sometimes it just doesn't. I mean, and then also as an adopted kid, I was constantly, even starting from the moment that I was adopted from my first memory, typically the only minority in the room. If not the only minority, one of the only minorities in the room. In my own family, there are 2 of us who are minorities out of the 7 of us total. As a minority, if you are any minority of any group, I'm going to stress any group because I know there is already somebody right now thinking, you don't have to be minority to be a people pleaser. No, but when you're a minority in a majority, typically, if you want to get along with the majority or if you want to kind of be in with the majority, you kind of will find yourself assimilating to the way that the majority is. So I found myself people pleasing not only in, like church environments or family environments, but also social environments just to get along with everybody. I would put my desires on the back burner if they conflicted with somebody else's because I found other people's to be much more valuable because they meant my survival, basically. As the child of a mother who was raised in a Southern family and a pastor's daughter, I was not going to learn what a boundary was naturally. I am coming to find that out. Dear mom, please don't take this video as a critique of your parenting. My childhood happened. Please don't send me an apology text because I know you and I know your heart. Yeah, please don't text me. I love you. Not all of these videos are critiques on you and parenting. Like, this is just the way that I deal and express myself through them. Oh, I hate doing this every time. Anyway, other people may people please just due to the fact that, they had parents that would guilt trip them. Parents who are narcissistic or abusive typically view children who want to express themselves, and that may like conflict with their parents' desires, or like parents who want to control children. They typically produce children who are very accommodating to other people, because those children never got a say, in their like childhood, because they wanted things to go over smoothly with their parent. Ooh. Or you could just be a people pleaser because you like people's approval. Yeah, there's so many different people pleasers of the world. I believe that everybody has people pleasing tendencies to some degree, because people pleasing really is just seeking out the ability to prioritize other people's desires and wants above your own. And I mean, we all have to do that like sometimes, but I think that what defines a people pleaser is just the people that do that consistently. This is going to be the thesis statement of this video. ChatGPT provided me this thesis statement. I just want to be open and honest about that before anybody thinks that these were my words. These were not my words. I could not think of a proper thesis statement for this video. In the bar that you put what you want, I just did the title of this video, which is just people pleasing is the disease thesis statement, and they provided me a great one.
Being a people pleaser is more than just a personality trait. It can be considered a disease due to its detrimental impact on one's mental, emotional, and physical health. Thank you.
I could not have written that. So then what is a people pleaser at its core? I'm just going to read this straight up. A people pleaser is someone who prioritizes the needs and desires of others above their own, often at the expense of their own well-being. So some characteristics are just a constant need of validation, fear of conflict or disappointing others, difficulty setting boundaries, and the fear or the inability to say no at times. I'm really jealous of the people that instinctually are very strong and have very strong personalities and don't feel the need to people please. Like the type of people where if you guys are hanging out one-on-one and you're like, what do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know, what do you want to do? I'll base my answer off you. The type of people who are just like, let's go do this thing. People who are very what's the word, like efficient and know what they want and just go for it. I can't just straight up know what I want and go for it if I am working with somebody else. I will always have to consider somebody. And I mean, like, that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. So the negative consequences of being a people pleaser are as follows. You can develop chronic stress and anxiety. As somebody who's diagnosed with anxiety, I feel as though a lot of my anxiety does root from the fact that I moved around a lot and was constantly just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to prove to other people that I am worth their time. I'm constantly going to have to do that, and that's disappointing. But yeah, and as a people pleaser, that's just like my anthem is just, let's just prove to people why we're great, as opposed to just know it and just have a high self-worth. That's another thing is people pleasers can have low self-esteem and self-worth because we place it on other people, and strong people shouldn't do that and don't do that. Some relationship challenges also were one-sided relationships. I have been a part of some one-sided relationships, and it's typically me who's always the heavier side. There was like 1 or 2 times where I was a part of a one-sided relationship where I was the one who just wasn't feeling it because we were both people pleasers, and I was just like, game recognized game. Let's stop playing around. Like, I know you're not being authentic here. And that's another thing, leads me to my next point. The lack of authenticity that people pleasing creates is something that I am also jealous of people that have just the ability to be completely authentic from jump with other people. I wish I feel as though I'm developing a strong personality, and I can have a strong personality with people who I feel comfortable with. But if we're just meeting, it does not matter who you are. If we're just meeting, I have to gauge how authentic I can be with somebody based off their own personality, just to see like, oh, I'm gonna base how I am off you because I don't want to rub you the wrong way in case like this is too much for you, or this is too little for you, or this is too whatever for you. And I find that that's a very relatable feeling. But the people who are just openly themselves from rip, I envy that so much. The ability to just base your to not have to base your personality in anything when you're around people that you don't know or people you're getting acclimated to. Just to straight up being yourself and not depending on other people to determine how you're going to act. That's amazing. Yeah, so I feel as though I'm just now coming into the ability to not constantly be digestible for people. As this also happens in conversation, like if I'm in a conversation with somebody who maybe I'm getting to know, or even if it's with a coworker, and they bring up something that is like I don't think I would have a controversial conversation with somebody who I like don't really know that well. But let's say like that could happen. Let's say I'm having a conversation with somebody and they bring up something that I'm passionate about. Let's say let's not make this video that no, let's make it controversial. Let's say they bring up something about something that I feel passionate about that I've made a video about, Colin Kaepernick, and they're like, Colin Kaepernick is a brat. My instinct would not be to say exactly how I feel, which is just that Colin Kaepernick is just a man existing in the best way he knows how, authentically, and doing it in a very respectful way, which should not bother anybody who is not racist. That's what I would feel. Like, that's how I feel. But what I would say to somebody who says that is just, wow. Because I want to make them comfortable. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to feel as uncomfortable as I feel. I don't want to get into an argument, or I don't want to get into a discussion where we disagree vehemently. I don't want them to feel as though I'm arguing with them. So I just kind of like don't deal with it at all. And I'm just not being as authentic with myself, you know? And I'm not being authentic to the person because they felt comfortable enough to say that. So I should feel comfortable enough to say something back as well if I'm being respectful. Like, I don't know, the lack of authenticity to me is enough for me to actually feel really sad about it, because I just felt like for a long time, as somebody who moved around a lot, I'm going to say that a lot. And just as a person, I find that a lot of us can't be authentic with one another because we're constantly walking around how we feel, you know? But yeah, so then it also leads to difficulty forming genuine connections. And I relate to that as well a lot, because if I can't be authentic with you and if I don't feel invited to be authentic with you, I will just say exactly what you want to hear, which is not fair. That's not fair. That feels a little bit manipulative. And then it's kind of like, well, I'm robbing you of the ability to see me as an open, honest person. You know, that's not fair. Like, as much as I'm trying to just please you and to accommodate to you, but yeah, people pleasing, I feel as though has many different levels to it. I feel as though I started off as a severe people pleaser because I based my life experience off other people. And I truly felt I had to please people in order to have a good childhood, like to like survive as best as I could. As a teenager, I feel as though I went through my phase of being like, of really just gaining awareness of the idea that I don't have to be digestible to people. I don't have to be walked all over. I don't have to be liked by everybody. I felt as though I truly came to terms with that. They say that your 20s or where you're trying to convince people to like you. And then your 30s are where you are convincing you to like yourself, which I find very interesting because I feel as though my teens were, oh, I'm trying to get people to like me. And then my late teens, early 20s are just me convincing myself to like, wow, wow, me trying to convince myself that I like me and that I'm confident in me as opposed to other people. I'm not trying to get people to like me. I'm trying to exist in a way that's like authentic to me with the right people. You know what I mean? How do we figure out the cures for being a people pleaser? So, recognizing the patterns of people pleasing and really getting down to the core of why we want to people please is something I have been doing. If I'm at work and somebody asks me to do something that's really inconvenient for me, it is physically hard for me to stand up for myself and say, I can't do that. I'm sorry. It's really hard for me because I feel like I'm letting somebody down. And but I have to like at the core say, why am I feeling this way? Because they probably don't have to do this whole like self-analysis thing of asking me to do this thing and dealing with the disappointment of me saying no. Like they probably just asked me because I was just there and convenient, you know? So just kind of deconstructing why it's hard to not people please is viable. Setting healthy boundaries is something that I find incredibly easy to do now that I have a husband, because we have a life together that makes me feel as though no matter what I do, I don't feel as though I can say the wrong thing unless it's malicious and unless it's out of like anger or hurt or sadness, whatever. I There is nothing that I can really like say or do or think that's not malicious, that's not out of a bad place, that will make him love me less. So I find that having that foundation makes me more courageous in just being able to do that with anybody else. Because it's like, okay, I can say things authentic to me and not be scared that I just will wreck a relationship, or I'll wreck the way that me and my coworkers talk to each other. You know what I mean? Like me prioritizing myself and the decisions that I make and saying no to somebody will not wreck a healthy relationship or a healthy dynamic. So I think setting boundaries just kind of further exemplifies that. And if people can't handle your boundaries and you just trying to do well for yourself, either work that out or don't deal with it at all, you know? Yeah, and then also working on building self-confidence is something that I've been doing a lot in therapy, but then a lot also just through manifestation. I love manifestation. Manifestation at the core of it really is just you have control of your entire life. What do you want to make out of your life? Whatever you set out, whatever you want to do, set out to do it and do it boldly. So I find that I am no longer people pleasing because I have realized that I can make my life whatever the heck I want it to be, and nobody else has as much agency or control over my life as I do. You can have like little people pleasing tendencies that are not bad, that won't destruct your well-being, or you can have people pleasing tendencies that control your life and make your quality of life feel so much worse than it should. So, yeah, that's just my feels about people pleasing. I hope that if you're a people pleaser, you can find a cure like I did and that you get well soon.